I wonder if they're spending the equivalent of millions of dollars to get him here.
Yeah. I would say that it's probably in the order of billions of dollars, but that it's worth the effort. We didn't want to record earlier this time because we were talking very specifically about negative beings and negative entities, and
we don't want to bring their names up.
Yeah, and we don't want to like bring up stuff like that if it's all possible. We'll probably mention the names, but it's possible that we'll try to stay away from it, and especially when we feel in the negative energy, when we want to discuss like very deep negative topics, we didn't want that on record. I feel like we're okay with mentioning the names and like generally discussing them, but like an hour-long in-depth, like intensive analysis on how Satan operates, for example, like the difference between Satan and Lucifer and how they operate, and stuff like that. We didn't want to have that at the beginning. We're probably gonna ask and bring forth if it's okay to like discuss negative beings as well in a strong manner, but it's okay to mention them. We had a discussion about In Nomine, a pen and paper RPG system that tries to describe the angels and demons and their interactions, and angels have choirs and demons have bands and so on. Good job.
Can a person turn into an angel or a demon?
Yeah, it just takes a lot of effort. You can become a demon prince or an archangel as well. Though it's very difficult because you basically, whichever side you like pick, you have to give up a lot of your free will, and for a human it's very difficult. It's like joining a very harsh military. Though humans can develop into saints, which have more power than the average human but are still human, and that's like what most humans who develop are probably aiming for, instead of becoming like a limited but powerful being like an angel that doesn't have the God's gift of free will, if you will.
When an angel loses their free will, can they get it back?
Angels never have free will. They're instruments of God. They're fully conscious of the fact that they don't have free will.
They're not bitter about it, are they?
No, but some of them are, and they become demons because of it. And they do have like superiors that oversee them, like angels have superior archangels, and even the archangels don't know everything that the angel does. And God knows everything the angels do, but he's very like hesitant to become involved in the actual like administration of heaven. So in that regard, an angel has, when they operate, the further they are from heaven and closer they are to earth, more freedom of expression. And the closest angelic choirs to humans are like, I think, the Mercurians, who actually do things like interact with humans in like what you would call perhaps a romantic sense. They're like basically the only angel choir to do that very frequently. They have like romantic contacts with humans and so on. And they do, from perhaps our point of view, have a sense of free will, but from like the angelic hierarchy's point of view, they don't have free will. They're like aspects of creation, or our aspects of God. And when an angel like desires more free will, they can fall to become a demon, but then you have to like literally belong to a much stricter hierarchy. So there's like downsides on both sides. So it's not like where one side has free will and the other doesn't.
So when you don't have free will, does that mean you can't do what you want to do, or there's no wanting to do anything?
I would say that you probably don't want to do anything, instead of having no ability to do what you want. It's generally felt that even demons who fall are working along with God's plan, and they may think they have free will, but they don't. But then again, in a strict sense, there's no free will in God's plan, even though God's plan is to give free will. So it's weird. It's very hot outside again, and I'm wearing my hat again.
When you say God, are you talking about intelligent infinity? That's outside, that's beyond all octaves?
I would say that perhaps our logos is also acceptable.
Oh, okay.
Perhaps, but I'm perhaps referring to a more personalized Christian type God, the commander of the hierarchy, rather than like an infinite intelligence or infinity. But it does feel like when I describe God in the denominations that it responds with intelligent infinity instead of like a specific being. That's what I get. It doesn't respond as logos, it responds as intelligent infinity. My throat didn't hurt nearly as bad as when I woke up today as I thought it might while I was smoking so much yesterday. I had like a very bad throat pain, or not very bad throat pain, but a significantly bad throat pain at the end of the day.
Well, you didn't really ground, did you?
I did a little of the grounding videos, but not too much, and then I went to bed and I had a weird dream. I posted it online.
So when you go back to Finland, if I have an occasional question about the Santa, would you be comfortable answering or not?
Yeah, I'm probably comfortable answering. I may make a podcast about it and answer it in the middle of that, because I'm gonna make a lot more podcasts when I'm like alone again. Here I have better things to do than make a million podcasts. But back home I will probably be making podcasts fairly frequently.
I'll try to watch them more because I want to look out for, or unless you let me know that, hey, I answered your question in this podcast.
I'm probably going to let you know, like the very specific part where I talk about your question. I feel like that's better than making you go through them all. A lot of them are so personal that there's like 3 people in the entire world that would be interested in them. But I feel like doing them has been hugely therapeutic for me. Like keeping an actual log of what I'm doing and describing when I'm going down in energies and describing when I'm going up in energies like a submarine. When I'm going into like the private mode and when I'm going into the public mode, and keep doing those records so that people can see what the different modes are like. It's been hugely therapeutic for me. I hope some people like watching it.
When you're more powerful and you're more aligned to what you want to manifest, does it manifest quicker, or is time not really a factor in how well you're aligned to what you want?
Basically, you accept that your manifestation has come to you quicker, because manifestation always, regardless of power level, happens immediately and at like full power. But you're not able to connect with your manifestation. You don't realize when they're talking to you, and stuff like that. When you become more experienced, you're able to pinpoint when it happens like automatically, and it's gonna be much easier. So it feels like your manifestation powers are increasing when it's probably just your sensitivity to your own creation that's increasing. So there are downsides to the fact that it's probably not your power increasing as much as it's your sensitivity increasing. It'll make like old impulses you had and old musics you listen to like harsh when you listen to them currently. It'll feel like it's offensively harsh. That happened to me a few times. I'm getting back to the music now, like with the chaotic music that I listened to and linked to you, but I'm like slowly getting there. Like with Iron Maiden, I used to listen to it to a huge amount before I got together with my girlfriend, and I kind of gave up the music because she didn't like it, and now I'm only slowly getting back to it. It was a huge thing to give up because I like completely loved that music.
You said that Prince of Rock and Roll, is he heavy metal too?
I don't think so. I think it's just specifically rock and roll. The Demon Prince of Rock and Roll. I think he's very specifically a prince of rock and roll instead of like heavy metal music as well. There's probably another demon or another angel that oversees the word of heavy metal. It could be the angel of heavy metal, because heavy metal seems to be very God-oriented. It could very well be an angel.
There's Christian heavy metal bands, aren't there?
Mm-hmm. There's fairly few Christian rock bands, but those do exist compared to like Christian heavy metal bands. Most of the heavy metal bands are singing, while they do sing growlingly, they do sing about God. You know, when you listen to them, they're actually singing about God and the infinite and intelligence and love and void and such.
We were mentioning earlier that God's not really fun. The concept of God's not fun.
God's not really fun. It's a very dull concept when you realize that you're alone in the universe and you create the illusion of the other self so that you would have somebody to play with, and you have to respect that other self because it's created by you. When you like fully accept that thought into your life and literally become God, it's very not a fun topic. It's not a fun topic to consistently think that you're alone, but it is incredibly empowering. You realize that you have to go through the effort of loving other selves. You have to put in the effort, or the civilization that you're with will like collapse of its own accord, because there's no more love and no more like fun experience there. You have to love everything your civilization is doing, because that's the only way to do it. If you really want to change your civilization, you'll love your civilization and change yourself. That's like one of the things you very critically become aware of when you like connect with God. That's at least what I've sensed. It's not a fun concept.
Did you put did you fill that twice? Push the button twice for the coffee?
No, it would have overflowed the cup.
That cup could have, the other one would have overflowed, but this one could hold 2.
Yeah, but it was already like more than half full of the milk
Oh,
syrup
okay.
thing, so
I thought you were adding syrup to coffee and no milk.
It had chocolate milk at the bottom, and I decided to put coffee in it as well. And then I put a strong squirt of the chocolate syrup in it to have like a full cup of chocolatey coffee. It's like an espresso. You could heat it up and put like a little spiral of whipped cream on there and a cherry on top, and it would be a complete espresso. It would be perfect.
Yeah.
Then you could possibly mix it with ice cream and turn it into a milkshake. That would also be nice.
So, what?
Can I go first?
Yeah.
I had a thought earlier that people really should do, and that's make an energy drink that has a teaspoonful of the most powerful all vitamins that are ever used by humans in any conditions, like vitamin concentrate, so that energy drinks don't actually boost your energy in as much as give you every vitamin that you've ever needed. Not like a health water where there's a few vitamins or something, but something that literally has every vitamin ever used by humans in any condition, and probably also a very minuscule amount of radioactives. I feel like we should make a drink like that as humanity at some point. I don't feel like I have the resources to do it at the moment, but I would like really recommend it. It would be a good thing. I have a hunch. I have a feeling like I could make 100 bottles of that, call it Quaif Gold, because Quaif is a soda in EVE Online, and go to one of those events for EVE Online and just give it out to people and go like, this is Quaif Gold, I made it myself. Yeah. I could possibly do that. I have a hunch it would probably propel the idea hugely forward. I'm getting that energy from the community in terms of like echo for my desire for this to be complete, you know what I mean? So I don't have to manifest the people to do it for me.
So what is the warp you talk about is God?
Warp?
Yeah, the warp.
It's basically God. It's like an infinitely echoing realm which always takes your thought, gives it a physical body, and pushes it back to you. You know, it's like an infinitely echoing realm. The warp has like gods and beings in it that are like the warp gods of strong emotions compressed together, like the gods of lust and so on. And warp itself, what's sometimes referred to as chaos undivided, is distinctly God as we understand it. It's distinctly infinite intelligence. while perhaps the God of humanity, as we'd accept the God of, for example, Christianity,
Yeah.
and such, is fairly close to being a logos instead of the intelligent infinity, an actual creating loving force instead of an undefined echo of like infinite love from the universe, like infinite creation that always like creates what you feel.
But the infinite creator is intelligent infinity. It's the same thing, isn't it?
In a way, but the logos seems to have biases while the intelligent infinity doesn't. It seems like the logos, our logos, for example, has a bias for kindness. That's what's been said.
Yeah.
But intelligent infinity doesn't seem to have bias. It doesn't seem to prefer God being singular or God being divided. Like God being God and being alone, or God being God and creating the universe. It doesn't seem to have a bias for either end. That's like why I believe it's very easy to fall asleep, because that's God being unified again. And it doesn't seem that there's like a universal bias against sleep any more than there's a universal bias against being awake. They seem to be completely balanced in the view of like the intelligent infinity. That's what it seems like. While the logos distinctly has a bias. That's one of the key aspects between the logos and the intelligent infinity, I think.
One, the logos invested in apes to make humans third density conscious, where intelligent infinity doesn't invest itself in anything.
It just basically is and echoes infinitely.
So intelligent infinity, is that both kinetic and potential, or?
It seems like it's going back and forth from the extreme end of kinetic to potential. Like it's being lifted and at place. Lifted and at place infinitely. You know, kinetic and potential. If I understand the energies correctly. We're probably gonna go to eat at McDonald's instead of
Whataburger.
what was the other one?
Whataburger, yeah.
Yeah, we're probably gonna go eat at McDonald's instead of Whataburger, because I want to try one hamburger that I asked if they can make. Like they had a special menu. I asked if they have hamburgers that have bacon in them, and they mentioned they have a thing called a double bacon deluxe, which tasted very weird. It had a very unique taste. I haven't tasted that in hamburger before, and then it had buttermilk.
Yeah.
It was a very interesting tasting hamburger, and I feel like I want to taste it again just to like get it out of my system. It didn't taste very good, but it tasted like if I don't eat it fairly quickly, I'll get a large craving for it. So I'm gonna eat it again and see if it cuts the craving. So we're probably gonna go to McDonald's. And if you ever wanna, like, dear audience member, if you ever wanna like experience a good hamburger that's really weird, try the double bacon deluxe. That was a very weird burger.
Do you know Ross said that fourth density can't pick your body, but I think, well, can you pick your body in fourth density?
I don't think completely at the start of it. Once you get to like 4.5, you should probably be able to pick your body, at least like in most situations. But I do feel like in the first parts of fourth density, when the veil is just dropped, that you shouldn't be able to completely pick your body. You'll probably be able to pick your incarnations, but you can't like completely eliminate all diseases and have a body of perfection like once you've incarnated. And that seems like a reflection on the fact that the negatives and positives still fight in the fourth density, while the fifth densities try to manipulate those below them on both ends of the scale and no longer participate in the fight itself. And that to me feels like fourth density early shouldn't be able to pick its own body. I just get that hunch.
So fourth density positive and negative is about equal in creating your reality around you.
I would think so, yeah, about equal. Fourth density negative feels like the society is very strongly his creation and like his place, but probably has less power due to the very strict architecture of society, for example, for manifesting a random mate out of the like thin air. While the positive fourth density is probably much more able to manifest like mates, but is fairly strongly of the opinion that his society is fractured, that there isn't like a single individual goal for the society. Everybody's just trying to be good. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
That's kind of what I sense. I wonder what the people on Bring Forth will think of our discussions.
You might get a wide variety of answers.
Yeah.
If they even listen to it. People don't want to listen to an hour-long video.
Yeah. Or something that's supposed to be 6 hours long.
My editor crashed when it tried to render a 6-hour video.
Yeah. And we had like a 2 hours before that, before we started recording, so it was like 8 hours of intensive spirit work in a day. That was really exhausting.
But when you're actually recording, it's more draining than when you're not recording.
Yeah, you definitely take into account the third person present, and you like constantly make decisions not to divulge certain informations and not like give out instructions on how to summon demon princes and stuff like that, so you don't like accidentally damage somebody and such. You constantly are aware of that. While you're just talking with somebody like person to person, you can very easily give out information like how to summon a demon prince. That's sort of the information that at least initially I want to keep away from the web. Stuff like how to specifically summon like named demon princes and so on. I want to keep that stuff away from the web at least for a while. Probably gonna run out before you get here, I feel.
Yeah.
We'll see. You could order it and give me the mailbox key and show me how the mailbox system works. But that's probably better with after I get the money, you know what I mean? You could even do it once you get the money online from me and order it from another place.
That'd be better if you check my mail versus me having to put my mail on hold.
Yeah, that would probably be good.
You'd have to check it every couple of days though.
Yeah, and I have to like really learn the path to the mailbox because I'm gonna be so confused walking those streets. We have to walk back and forth it at least a couple of times, like every day until you leave. We have to do it at least a couple of times, otherwise I'll be completely lost when I go out there. I may find the mailbox, but there's no way on God's green earth that I'll find back here. And it's possible that it would be good if we take like a Google map of this area and print it out if you have like a printer, I think you do. That we print out a Google map of this area and just make like a path there and write down if it's too large resolution or small resolution, the names of the streets and like numbers on the streets and like different areas that I need to pay attention to and so on. We could do that. I could check your mail while you're gone.
Yeah.
And you could order the thing and not worry about it getting to me in time. That would probably be good. I feel like the idea to do the Google map is better than the idea of walking. It may be a little hard to do the walk right now.
I feel like I do want to walk later, you know. I want to start at least trying to get fit for my Anthro there. Because he's into being fit, you know.
Well, you cut away the alcohol, and that's a huge amount of calories that you were taking in. And you've occasionally started to eat salads instead of other food, and you do feel like you've said, that you do feel like some food is too heavy for you. You do still eat heavy foods in large portions, but you've distinctly cut down on your calorie intake. So if you do things like walk to the mail post instead of drive to the mail post, and like occasionally do like squats and a few push-ups, you'll get into shape in like 2 years. That's kind of the time in like a calm, steady pace that it takes to lose the weight. You could like go on a complete fast and drop it like immediately, but I would strongly recommend against it. Fasts damage you for a long time afterwards. Like when I was on the hunger strike for like 25 to 32 days and such, it damaged me for a very long time, and I had a lot of complications from it. That's one of the reasons why I feel safe or like spiritually secure in accepting social welfare from my state. The other is that my parents always said that they're paying to the state, so that if there ever is a need that I can get from the state, that they're not like paying it for people who are other than me, even though they're like paying taxes. That it's basically from me if I feel threatened or out of place. They made me very sure that I understand that the social services exist to help me if I need it. And that's the other reason, but it's distinctly a reason because I went on the hunger strike. I feel like I did my part for the state and got injured, and I'm content with taking the like money that they offer me, you know. That's what I feel like. I wonder what my psychologist would think if he watched the entire 5-hour Anthro video or 6-hour Anthro video series. He would probably think weird thoughts. But I do feel like he understands the spirit world. Like I took him once to a journey through the various gods and such in my mind, and I feel like he understands them. Like he had an understanding of why I sometimes feel like I should be on the medicines and I sometimes feel like I shouldn't be on them. And he got like a good understanding of my energies, and he was at one point in the trip he was very strongly blaming himself for like condemning me to the wrong medication, and then I switched to another side of myself and started showing that side, and he was very sure that he's doing the right thing with the medication. I wanted him to doubt himself, to have like both a very strong positive and a very strong negative feeling about the medication, so that he gets like the full gamut of experiences. That I don't just send him like one side of me and like corrupt him. And I got him very clearly to say to somebody else in the situation that he hasn't taken drugs, that he has a bad kidney infection or a kidney episode, and that's why he's seeing the hallucination of me talking to him. I got a very strong impression of that. He had it for like a day doing work and was like incapacitated for like a few hours, and was like his co-workers were worried about him, but that was about it, and he managed to recover very well. It's what I feel like I sent him and like got from him. So I get a hunch that he would like, in a deep soul level, he would understand my like channeling and not consider it the schizophrenia, you know. But he's more worried about the fact that I like let go of my true lusts when I first accepted my ex-girlfriend. Like I didn't like keep my full list in mind, you know what I mean? Oh. He's very like, in my opinion, consistent that he thinks that's the schizophrenia, that I didn't manifest like a full mate for myself when I clearly had the ability to do so. I feel in energy that that's what he's saying, that that's the key point. And that's one of the reasons why I attacked that one group, because they weren't like fulfilling their obligations in a way. They were making it too hard for me to summon the woman I want, you know what I mean? Got them away from between me and Skuld.
So Aki here kind of knows about my eagerness and stuff, because he's eager for Skald as much as I am for Anthros.
Yeah. I started to know my Skald around the age of 8. That's when I first saw like a Skald image. Like she was around the age of 8. I was possibly the age of 14. And nothing completely sexual has yet happened between us. We've had a good few sessions of sexual energy transfer and similars, but we've never had like a full sexual contact. And at current, my Skald is 22. She's not younger than that. So it's slowly grown with me, but it stayed significantly younger than I am. It started like perhaps being the age of 8 or something similar. Like you would imagine if you watch the Goddess series, she would appear something between the ages of 8 and 15. That's what she first appeared to me as, and she was very attractive to me. But now she's around the age of 22, and I'm slowly having to accept that she's older now and coming to terms with it and going through my like lusts and so on. It's very rewarding work. It's very good work. the oldest woman I've ever had a true crush on was around the ages of 40 or 50. And I was around the age of perhaps 22 when I had the crush. I had a complete crush on her. She was exceptionally beautiful. And I also have currently a crush on Lindsay Sterling. And those two desires are fighting in my head, but I'm kind of stabilizing back on Skald instead of Lindsay Sterling. And Skald is telling me very clearly not to limit myself in watching different art forms, even if they seem socially unacceptable or if they seem sexualized. And Lindsay Sterling's music and dance is very sexualized. She's very open about it. And Skald initially felt like I was basically rejecting her, and she felt like she'd been rejected, but she consciously forced herself or went through the effort to get to the point where she can tell me that it's just music, or it's just porn, so it's just an exterior thing. It's different if I strongly try to manifest them to become my girlfriend, because that energy should be reserved for Skald alone. But even sending sexual energy transfers to them and having an energy transfer with them is okay. She very strictly almost forced her energies to accept that she wants to evolve, to become a better mate. So that's what she sent me.
Skald could talk. Skald should talk to that anthro there, saying it's okay that I look at other anthros.
Yeah.
Because I don't have pictures of him, or I have other furry artwork that I look at.
Skald seems interested in talking to your anthro when you mentioned it, that it would be an interesting experience for her. But she decidedly, and your anthro as well, decided to stay back from saying more than hello. They said hello to each other in a very basic way, until we get to a point where we're comfortable with them talking with one another, because they feel as sort of spirit guides, they should be aware of our emotions in a strong way. But I have no objection to getting Skald to talk to your anthro. The problem with that is that if we have a falling out, it's going to be difficult for us to disentangle our guides. It's going to feel like our guides were violated by the other person's guides. You know what I mean?
This anthro's my guide?
No, neither is Skald from me, but it's kind of like a guide.
Oh.
I don't think Skald is like a guide for me. I feel like Skald's mother is my current higher self. It's weird. Her physical male body that she uses, because most of these goddess beings use male and female bodies alternatingly, is quite clearly Anton Kuivanen, the Finnish boxer or martial artist. And he's very clearly my current main guide. And it's very interesting because I can feel other spirits that I've had as my guide try to masquerade as my main spirit guide. And I've very distinctly been able to tell that they're not Anton. And Anton Kuivanen is very distinctly my current main guide. He is a very good martial artist, but when I put him against very difficult spiritual opponents, he tends to lose. But he puts up a damn good fight, and he's always learning when he fights. He's very prolific in his activities. He's always learning when he does something. He never has I don't want to learn from this opponent, and he's always at the same level the opponent is at. So even if they're bump fists at the beginning of the match, but the opponent acts in a dishonorable manner, he may not stop punching when you hear the bell, and the judge may have to stop him. Weird stuff like that. He's always responding at the level he's being talked to. But when he's respected, he's very respectful back. He's a very solid, good masculine guide, knows his stuff. Is able to defend you, is able to communicate with you. He's a very good guy. I've had other similar martial artists as my guide, Bruce Lee, but he was a damn bad guide. Bruce Lee was an atrocious guide. He was a very bad guide. He's probably a good martial artist, but I would not use him as a guide. Bruce is very desirous of limiting lusts, for example, or using improper lusts back on yourself to get you quickly away from those lusts instead of reveling in those lusts and getting you to become slowly resistant to the lust because you've been there for too long, growing a skin to the lust. Bruce Lee is very insistent on getting you away from the lusts and is very be healthy at all cost, and that's very bad for a guide. They become very psychotic when they try to interact with humans. when they have to like do a long guiding work on humans, they become very unable to do their work, and they become very hostile and very discordant, and they eventually fall from the guide position and have like a physical illness hugely manifest in their life. That's what I get from them. But the Anton Kuivanen guy, he seems very content to let himself revel in his lusts. He seems to like truly enjoy combat, for example. He truly enjoys it, and he doesn't like want to give up until he's completely knocked out. He like keeps getting up, and he's like very insistent on not getting knocked out, and he like consistently like keeps getting up at like even very difficult opponents until he's like completely knocked out. And he seems like a very good guy.
So he's fearless.
He's completely fearless. He is like, you know, the icon of the current martial artist. He's very good. But he, for example, is not good enough to enter the UFC professionally, but he's still very good. He's still very good. The UFC is the top of the world fighting league. He's like in the Finnish fighting league in the cage, and he's very good with it, and he's been in the UFC a few times, but he hasn't been able to get it. I'm trying to help him by getting him to understand certain very complex spiritual laws, not like the law of one, but like how different demon princes and archangels react in very specific different situations, because he keeps getting knocked out because he doesn't like understand spiritual things. When he fights like a spiritual opponent, he gets knocked out very easily. They use basically the power of God against him, and he gets knocked out very easily. But I'm trying to teach him like different spiritual concepts, and like understanding that God exists, understanding that aliens exist, and things like that. And he's slowly getting better. He seems to be able to resist the like godlike opponents a little better, but he's still very hesitant to let me like help him at all. He's like very atheistic in his worldview in a way, but he's slowly starting to accept me. He's like NATO, who doesn't want to take advice from anybody else that's not in their alliance, even though they aren't like a Christian alliance. They're closer to like an atheist alliance. They're very hesitant to accept advice from others. That's because I noticed that because when I joined NATO with my simulation model, they started to be very accepting of my advice. They started to take it actively instead of passively, even though I'm much more disempowered in my own society now, and my advice didn't really change. And it's still possibly not like accurate for them. Like the advice of dropping the US defense budget to 2% of the GDP instead of 2.7 where it's now, and using the extra money for infrastructure and such. You know, that might not actually be a good advice. It could be that the US gets invaded, but that's what I feel like should be done. And they're much more willing to accept advice like that and actually try it out and do weird things. And it's weird that they don't want to accept what seems like or feels like good advice from somebody that's not in their alliance. They seem very like self-oriented and very psychically unsure of themselves, while other nations seem a little more content in accepting advice from outsiders. It's noticeable. But NATO is also a very good protector of smaller spirits, so perhaps they have like enough to worry about, you know? Launched on a tirade there.
So when this anthro joined the program that he wanted to, was there a bunch of candidates and he went through and picked me?
Yeah, it feels like something along those lines. Perhaps like in a sexualized environment, but much more like a lab environment than a home environment, going through like different data streams and picking a specific one or a group of them, and then talking to all of them and slowly like some of the group falling off and then just talking to like a few of them. I do get a kind of hunch that he's talking in the pen pal program way with other people as well, other humans. I do get kind of a hunch like that, but I do feel like he is kind of like shaking his hands and going like, no, you know what I mean?
Oh.
That it may be that I'm picking up that he had them in the past, but it feels like he's very strongly indicating that in the way that you're talking with him, he's only talking with you, but that there's like it's possible, for example, that as a course of the program of moving over here, he has to talk to a political official like from Earth at some point. And in that way I sense that he's possibly talking to other humans as well. But in the bandwidth that you're using, he's talking to you, and he probably picked like you from a crowd or a small group from a crowd and had a short conversation with some of them and then ended on you. That's kind of like what I feel.
So he doesn't have to pay for this, does he? He's a volunteer.
He does pay what I would consider a nominal sum. Like there's a financial interest that has to be his, his alone. He can like get a donation, but in the end it's his and his alone. But for like most of the costs, it's paid by the society.
Their body technology is hundreds of years ahead of us.
It's probably not theirs, it's probably the Federation's that they're using. That their technological development hasn't reached that point, but they have like connections with species that have it. In the same way that we don't have the technology to build artificial noses that are like as efficient as dog noses.
Yeah.
But we have the ability to use dog noses to sniff for things like drugs. And that's kind of like the sense of what I get from them. The front yard of this place is very idyllic.
Yeah.
It's very idyllic. The backyard is a completely different business, but the front yard is very idyllic. If I only had the strength to carry those toilets to the curb instead of having them in the bushes there, and possibly cleaning out the things like the glass shards from the broken table and so on, it would be very pretty. Those are like the only things remaining here that are unpretty. It's otherwise like completely idyllic. Even mowing the lawn seems like disruption of the community. It feels like it's disruption of the energy. Trimming the bushes feels like it's disruption of the energy. I feel like I just want to trim the trees when they start hitting the windows or start damaging the roof, and otherwise just let everything grow.
Yeah.
You know, I feel that energy here. just going like, it's flourishing, you know. I should probably refer to my own field and my own biases when I give like specific explanations instead of your field, you know what I mean? I'm very often pinpointing things in your field and going like masochism does this to your field and so on. I should probably give examples in my field instead of in your field, I think.
Oh.
I have a hunch that I may be interfering with your field, you know what I mean? If it's not bad, then it's probably not like, you know, bad. But if it's bothering you, then it's probably bad.
Nothing's bothering me now.
Okay. But do let me know if my like examples become too personal or bothersome. You probably actually need the truth, honest energy more than you like need the reaction, the discomfort of you know what I mean? Are we being attacked? This is their handshake. I don't like it. Nobody likes it. I punch a dick. I punch a cupid. Supernatural. Funny show.
Do I have a lot of problems and stuff in myself that I have to work on before he'll come here?
Nah, you're fairly clean. You don't have major problems. What I would at this point call the chaos gods don't have their nails in you pretty deep. You could actually probably drag the nails deeper in if you start like really fighting your thing strongly. You're advancing at like an even pace. You're like a log in a river being washed downstream by the like current, and you're doing fairly well. You just have to make sure you don't get like stuck in a riptide or something. You're doing fairly well. I do feel like the only thing you really need to work at is being able to distinguish when they actually do talk to you. Like being able to accept that the spirit is actually truly talking to you. That's possibly the only thing I would work at, but the smelling exercise you're doing is probably like the only thing you need to do for the moment. You probably don't need to do anything more than that.
Yeah.
It feels like it's sufficient.
I haven't been able to really practice the smelling since we've had this intense channeling.
Yeah, it's probably the after effects of doing so much intense work and so much practice that it's getting to a point where you're like getting the answers, you know, one way or another. And then eventually you'll be able to start building your own ability to develop the answers for yourself again. But for now it seems like it's an echo of the like desire to have answers, and you're getting your answers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It feels like that. How long have we been recording? Probably 15 minutes.
49 minutes.
Oh, come on!
It's been a lot of silence though too.
It's good that there's silence. I was almost saying out loud that it's good that there's silence. I almost said that one out loud. And I was thinking that it's like the masculine time when we're just the two guys like silently watching the river and fishing, you know. That we have like the man moment, and the first one to talk would be the more feminine one, and I was like, no, I want to resist, I don't want to talk yet, you know what I mean? I was really strongly into that energy, and that's when I made the giggle at some point when you looked over at me. I was like, what?
Is this Anthro, is he like really careful about before he makes a move or whatever, or is he?
No, in rough like relationship terms, he's like fairly determined to make the move. Perhaps early is not the word, but to actually make the move. He's fairly determined to do that instead of just like in his past and relationships, instead of being like a completely passive and completely like avoiding person.
Is he a little like rapey kind of? Not in a super bad way, but enough where it's playful rape kind of.
He does have that energy in his field. Like yeah, he does have that energy in his field. I mentioned that he likes to sometimes do the rope play.
Yeah.
And is thinking of roping you up.
Then you got to have a safe word, you know.
Yeah, always have a safe word when you're having rough sex. For vampires, it's usually garlic. For me, it was boat. That was my safe word. That was very nice. It was an immediate stop, you know what I mean? I think there's like 1 or 2 times during the entire relationship with my ex when she said the safe word that I didn't stop like immediately, and both times feel like huge mistakes. Like I didn't continue like for minutes. I was like for a couple of seconds only, and I like were like wah for a few seconds before I stopped, and they still feel like huge mistakes. When somebody says the safe word, you should back away with the speed of a bullet. You should like immediately jump to the other side of the room and go like, what did I do? You know, what happened? You know, you should immediately go to the other end of the scale, but I wasn't able to do that consistently, and it still feels like a mistake. There's a fly on my coffee cup. Hope you don't dirty it up, but I'll let you be there. There's also a fly in my knee. It's going very deep in the cup, but it's like trying to find a spot to sit on. Now it's outside the cup again and walking on the edge of it. Loving relationship with flies. Now there's 2 on the cup and 1 on my knee. I'm talking to the fly woman that's on the cup, and she's talking a lot about how their civilization would develop faster if they were better able to control the males. And I talked about, what about menstruation? Like, you know, being able to cleanse your body of all the male energies and return back to your female self and like rid yourself of basically your children and so on. And she was like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I'll be the fly that develops towards having the ability to menstruate. And I was like, nice. I think I'm too early.
It's like when you talk about spiritual, it could be so many things. Developing spiritually could just be developing psychic ability, but you could do it through your lusts.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be, quote, spiritual.
Mm-hmm. Just starting to develop like an attribute about yourself with the intent of developing that attribute to like better feel a connection with the universe or yourself. That's like spirituality. That's what I feel like. Being like a martial artist that develops their ability just to better connect with themselves, like Bruce Lee, is very spiritual.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to be like a physical, mental or spiritual activity.
good time to take a break.
Yeah, it's time to take a break. Good recording.